So we have another example of the Democratic Party falling apart. Here is Bernie Sanders in an interview this morning. When asked if AOC should replace Chuck Schumer, he loses it. Take a look.
Would you like to see her join in the Senate?
Right now, we have, as I said, just a whole lot of people in the Congress. Okay, Jonathan, thanks.
Wait, I got one more. This is important.
Well, I asked you.
Okay.
You want to do nonsense, do nonsense.
No.
I don't want to talk about inside the Beltway stuff. I got 32,000 people.
I was just asking you about AOC because she was out there with you.
Yeah, fine. But I don't want to talk about this. What was the last question?
I was just going to ask you one more question about you. I mean, that's all. I was literally your last.
That was Bernie getting cornered by ABC host Jonathan Karl. He knows the Democrats are in disarray, but why is he trying to deflect? Is this an actual personal issue for him? I think it is, because we know they're out of leadership, they're out of strategy, they're out of touch. Because congressional Democrats, let's remind you, just hit a record low approval rating of 29%. And the only thing they seem unified on is blaming everyone but themselves, which led to Bernie Sanders finally coming out and admitting the truth about the party. Take a look.
How would you grade the Democratic Party's response?
Well, I would take us back even 2 years before that, before Trump was elected, and saying that it saddens me that when the Democrats had control of the Senate, they did virtually nothing for working people. And I have to say that I'm a member of the Democratic caucus as an independent, so I'm not going to lie to you and tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
And since then, do I think the Democrats have been effective in rallying the American people and stopping Trump's movement toward oligarchy and authoritarianism? No, I don't.
Is there anything that you think Trump has done right?
Yeah, I mean, I think cracking down on fentanyl, making sure our borders are stronger. Look, nobody thinks that illegal immigration is appropriate. And I happen to think we need comprehensive immigration reform. But I don't think that it's appropriate for people to be coming across the border illegally.
That's one of the most brutally honest things you will hear from someone on the left as far as he is, because we know he's a radical socialist. He believes in bigger government, no question about that. And he looks at everything from the lens of victimization. But he said it plainly, when Democrats had full control, they didn't help the working class, okay? And by the way, that's not a policies gap. That's a values gap. There's a conflict here. Moderate Democrats and progressive Democrats, they have two different sets of beliefs, and they contradict each other. But they still want people to believe that the party's going to fight harder for you. Here is Democrat Ro Khanna from California saying that same thing.
Do you think that there is a new Tea Party brewing in the Democratic Party?
Well, Dana, first of all, in America, leaders aren't supposed to hide from people. You're supposed to show up and take questions. And you're right, there is anger mostly at the cuts on Medicaid and veterans being fired, but there also is anger at Democrats. In fact, in one of the town halls, people were upset that we weren't doing enough to protect these cuts. And the main thing is that I'm going so that the representatives from these districts actually show up and take tough questions. That's the heartbeat of democracy. And I also hope that our leaders are going to fight harder next time, that there is a budget showdown, to make sure that they get some concessions and stop these cuts.
Okay, well, number one, fighting harder is not a strategy. That's exactly what you say when you're losing and you have nothing else to say. They have not offered up a clear plan for their party. In fact, Ro Khanna says politicians shouldn't hide, and that's him trying to poke at the town hall meeting situation. But here's the truth. The policies that they are trying to push, that's what voters are hiding from, just like Joe Biden hid from the media. But listen, Americans don't want more shouting. They want results. And that's where President Trump and the GOP are dominating. Now, here is Shermichael Singleton encouraging Democrats to, yeah, why don't you let AOC and Bernie Sanders be the messenger of your party?
Look, I welcome this AOC and Bernie Sanders being at the forefront in politics. Contrast as a currency of victory. I welcome debating the fact that they advocate for economic socialism over capitalism. I advocate for the fact that they want a very socialist cultural America, that most Americans are saying some of these ideals are too far to the left for the vast majority of us. Republicans will win every single time. Democrats tried this playbook before with Bernie Sanders. They elevated AOC before. It did not work well electorally for them. So if this is the direction that they're going to go in, I welcome it, Dan.
It's very clear that Republicans are confident here. They're daring Democrats to lean in on socialism because that's exactly what you get with AOC and Bernie Sanders. And by the way, we know exactly what will happen if they continue to go far left, because history tells us Progressive radicals don't win elections. And I'm talking nationally. They lose them. And right now the left is doubling down on losing, which prompted this ABC contributor to say that very point. Take a look.
But the problem for Democrats right now is if they're primaried by a bunch of Bernie Sanders, AOC type Democrats, they're going to have a real hard problem flipping the House. I mean, look, they only have to win a couple of seats. And while these folks really sort of gin up the base, they get people really excited, Democrats really excited. When it comes to independent voters, a lot of those types think Democrats are out of touch. They don't like what they see as sort of Democrats moving further left. So like that's not necessarily a win. And
even the people on the left know what's happening here. You see, if Democrat leadership gets primaried by people like AOC and Bernie Sanders, which I believe are a bunch of activists, radical left lunatics, the results are going to be devastating. We've seen this movie before. Defund the police, open borders, economic crisis. It doesn't end well. And in case you need to go down memory lane to remind yourself how bad it is for Democrats, listen to this journalist who is a liberal explain why she supports President Trump and why Democrats are not the party of the working class.
There is such an irony to Democrats talking about oligarchy because, of course, for every one billionaire that backed President Trump, Kamala Harris had 2. 9 of the 10 richest counties in America are represented by Democrats. 65% of Americans making over $500,000 a year today are Democrats. 75% of hedge fund managers who make political donations donate to Democrats, and 95% of political donations from the top 3 management consulting firms go to Democrats. Meanwhile, President Trump absolutely crushed with Americans who make under $100,000 a year. The Democrats are the party of the wealthy. And Donald Trump is representing the working class because he simply lifted the pro-worker elements of the Democrats' agenda when they abandoned the working class to cater to their rich base. This is all performance art. And what's so upsetting about it is they are being paid by the American people to serve them, and they are doing nothing of the kind.
She just nailed that, right? This constant oligarchy talking point from Bernie and AOC sounds like a college student who's wrapped up in a Marxist term paper, okay? Voters are not going to buy that. They're not going to relate to that. That's not the word that they even hear in their daily life, let alone do they even understand what that word means. See, President Trump talks like a construction worker, and Democrats talk like sociology professors, and they wonder why they're losing working class voters. Now, of course, I have an example to show you that type of talking point. I know you might want to hold your ears, but just stick with me here. Listen to AOC say this.
We are witnessing an oligarchy in America. And that is when those with the most economic, political, and technological power destroy the public good to enrich themselves while millions of Americans pay the price. Elon Musk and all the Republicans enabling him are turning to loot what is left of Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security to bankroll even deeper tax cuts and sweetheart contracts for themselves, their fellow billionaires, and their corporations.
In case it hasn't become obvious, the new talking point is this. Everything that is going wrong in our country, we need to blame it on an oligarchy. Okay? That's it. That's the message. Now, let's just be honest. That's not going to connect with me, you, or any normal person out there. It definitely doesn't solve inflation, gas prices, crime, education, healthcare, and even these endless foreign wars that continue to rob people of their tax dollars. And yet this is the message that they're running with. Please, I'm not complaining here. This is it. However, I think they have one problem. When their own pundits are coming out publicly and saying, this is not going to work, yeah, you probably need to go back to the drawing board. Take a look at this.
First off, the oligarchy tour, I think, kind of misses middle America because it, again, Democrats, in my view, being tone deaf from what the American people are saying. Folks sitting at the local pub aren't using the term oligarchy. Again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you launch it. It's what you say when you launch it. And if you're using terms and phraseology, right, that is not directly connecting people, then that becomes a concern in the process.
Well, I guess when MSDNC is telling you to tone it down and change up your message, you know you're in trouble. Eugene Daniels is spot on about this. Regular Americans don't talk about oligarchies. I just said it. They talk about food prices, energy bills, and whether or not their kids are going to be safe walking to school. That's why the left is losing this messaging war. And honestly, the solution isn't find a better message. The solution is get rid of your guys' delusion. Because as long as you continue to have people go on to MSDNC and speak this way, you're going to continue to miss out on everyday Americans. Take a look.
We are in a moment where we have to fight differently. And one of the ways that we have to fight differently is calling out the cult behavior. And, when you threw up that quote, there were some photos of some Republicans in the Senate on screen, people like Josh Hawley, people like John Cornyn. Those people's reactions have been predictable. And we have to call out all of them instead of waiting for someone like Lisa Murkowski or Susan Collins or any of these folks to do something good. Because guess what? They're not changing their behavior. They are just as big of the cult as Trump is.
Okay. Well, listen, what she needs to understand is Republicans and individuals on the right, which is a huge coalition, by the way, moderate Democrats are a part of that whole MAGA movement here. We have united under a winning strategy. Let's get back to common sense, folks. We don't even say that Democrats are in a cult, but they continue to push that line. Listen, their big idea, which I think is just going to fail, which is just to insult Republican voters all over again. Do we know how well that worked in 2016? Did we know how well that worked in 2024? But when you have no vision, all you have is attack lines. And it only gets worse from here when you see how their leaders are still clinging on to failed talking points. Listen to Chuck Schumer this morning say this.
Do you agree, is the United States in a constitutional crisis?
Yes, I do, Kristen, and democracy is at risk. Look, Donald Trump is a lawless, angry man. He thinks he should be king. He thinks he should do whatever he wants, regardless of the law. And he thinks judges should just listen to him. Now, we have to fight that back in every single way. And we actually have had over 100 cases in the courts where we've had a very good record of success. So Donald Trump, infuriated by that success, said judges should be impeached. Let me tell Donald Trump and the American people, Democrats in the Senate will not impeach judges, full stop.
So let me get this straight. When President Trump deports these violent gang members who are illegal aliens, Chuck Schumer calls it a constitutional crisis. No wonder Democrats are losing moderates and independents. The American people are not confused. They know what real leadership looks like. Now, they may not like President Trump's personality, but they like the action and they like results. And right now, the only party that even appears to be doing that are the Republicans, not the Democrats. And that's why Chuck Schumer said this.
Our plan, which we're united on, is to make Donald Trump the quickest lame duck in modern history by showing how bad his policies are. He represents the oligarchs, as I said. He's hurting average people in every way. And we are, through oversight hearings, we're exposing what he's doing. Through the courts, which I mentioned, we've had some real success in. Through legislation and through organizing in all the districts throughout the country. So that I believe by 2026, the Republicans in the House and Senate will feel like they're rats on a sinking ship because we have so gone after Trump and all the horrible things he's doing, and they will know it, see it, hate it, and act on it.
Peak delusion. And let's just be honest here. Democrats are divided. The strategy is chaos. The message is fear. And their so-called leadership, like Chuck Schumer there, is completely consumed with only one thing, and that is President Trump. See, while Republicans are talking about the economy, the border, restoring strength and respect for our great nation, Democrats are still stuck in the year of 2016. And Chuck Schumer just made it very clear. They're not running for something. They're running against someone. That's not leadership, folks. That's called desperation. And that's exactly why Trump is going to continue to win and bring our great nation back to where we feel proud, respected, safe, and prosperous. So this brings me to the question of this video. Would you rather have a party that fights for something bigger than themselves, or a party that's focused on fighting against one individual? You let me know what you think about all that in the comment section below. Now, it's not just President Trump that they're fighting against, it's Elon Musk. This is why you have individuals who are failures in regards to, and it's not just President Trump that they're fighting against, it's also Elon Musk. Because yesterday, a failed congressman by the name of Jamal Bowman, used to be a part of the squad, but then he got primaried out, called Elon Musk a Nazi, and this led to Elon Musk threatening a lawsuit. If you missed out on that story and more from yesterday, all you have to do is click on the video because it's coming up right now.